Welcome to Policing TV. Each week, we will explore the highlights from our latest videos, diving into topics like AI, technology, drugs, and the people shaping the future of policing. Our last video in March provided an in-depth look at the operations of the Staffordshire Road Crime Team as they patrolled the motorway network. The discussion covers a number of topics, but in this clip we get introduced to an unmarked XC90 and see the practical process involved in stopping a vehicle.
But it's set out with lots of different blue lights in the grills and the windscreen, and in the rear screen as well. It's obviously fitted with radio systems, communications, and we've got a rear matrix board where we can display various signs on the back of the vehicle. So for example, if we want to put a do not pass on to stop people passing us, or follow me, or directional arrows if there's something broken down in the carriageway, then we can display those messages there. And also on my colleague's side, we won't be able to see, but we've also got a screen that shows us all our strategic ANPR network cameras. So if certain cars of interest are coming up the motorway network and they activate one of the cameras, we'll know where it is and which direction it's travelling is, and then we can hopefully go and intercept it. So you will have seen obviously the offside front headlight smashed with the light cluster that's broke. When you look at the light cluster, it's got quite a lot of sharp, jagged edges that stick out. So I've been trained as what's classified in the police as a PG9 vehicle examiner. So I've got a City and Guilds qualification where I can examine vehicles for defects such as bodywork damage, brakes, lights, suspension, all those sort of main mechanical components. If I think from my training is an issue that the vehicle shouldn't be on the road any longer, there's basically a category of defects that the DVSA supply us. It's quite a long list of faults basically. I can then go through that category and look for the fault that I found, and I can see whether we can put an immediate prohibition on the vehicle. So basically what that means is we prevent it from being on the road network any further. We can apply a cable to it, which is padlocked up here, and it costs the driver £80 for that release fee. Basically that stops the vehicle going back out and being a danger to other road users. My main cause to stop this one and have a look is due to the jagged edges, and I've got to consider, is there a likelihood if a pedestrian or somebody else was struck by that vehicle in that condition, is that light with the jagged edges going to cause them some serious injury or a likelihood of causing them injury, which I would suggest it probably would do if they're in a collision with a pedestrian. Probably not so much on the motorway, but when they come off the motorway network and onto the county roads again. So I'm just quickly having a look for the category of defects that I've got on my phone now, just to identify which section it falls under and if it is within the parameters, so to speak.
On Tuesday, Inspector Chris Moss gave us an in-depth look at the Road Crime Team of Staffordshire Police, detailing its formation, objectives, and various functions aimed at enhancing road safety.
The name of the team rather gives away the purpose of the team, Roads Crime Team. Yeah. So it's focusing on crimes that take place on the roads here in Staffordshire.
It is really, to a large extent, recognising still that it's not just road crime. We have got the smaller road harm team, but the 4 shifts at work 24/7 covering the road network, they're not just targeting crime, they're targeting dangerous driving or driving that can cause issues. So last week was a good example. We had the Safer Lanes national campaign. So we were looking at, mostly on the M6, but also on some of the A roads, those drivers who drive in the middle lane at sort of 65 miles an hour, causing traffic to move across, causing traffic to back up, generally causing a danger. So we stopped several hundred vehicles who were displaying that behaviour. Most of that was around education for the drivers. So recognising that people sometimes need that sort of re-education, because if you pass your test at the age of 17 and then 20-30 years later you might have forgotten some of that. So most of it is around education, but where we need to we'll enforce as well. But those national campaigns really give a focus on the specific areas that the public sort of deem as priorities that on the roads.
And a total of, I think it's approximately 60 officers and staff within the Roads Crime Team. So it's what might appear to be a significant number.
Yeah.
But then Staffordshire has quite an extensive roads network, including the M6 running through it.
M6, part of the M6 toll, and then lots and lots of A roads, the A34 and the A5 in particular. So yeah, we've got large stretches of road that need to be policed. I think people would recognise that in previous years the investment in road policing hasn't perhaps been where we would want it to be. So we've had real investment from our PCC and our Chief Officer team around getting the right numbers and the right people into these positions so that we can make the roads safer, recognising the devastating impact of serious and fatal collisions and the cost to business and local industry of not keeping those roads flowing at the same time. So there's lots of elements to it that I suppose are difficult to measure, but we know that if we invest in them, that we'll get the right results in terms of reducing collisions and getting the traffic flowing or keeping it going.
Lastly, we heard from former Staffordshire Police Chief Constable John Giffird, who shared his extensive career in policing, beginning in 1973. Here we hear John's early steps into a life in the force.
You joined as a probationer here in Stafford. What are your early memories? Did you ever regret the decision, or did you continue to know it was for you?
I never regretted the decision. There have been times when I felt pretty awful about it, but I've never seriously regretted it. I always felt I could get to the top. Whether I could get to the top in Staffordshire was always a moot point, but everything happened in the end to fall right for me, very fortunately. And we've had a few scrapes and shaves on the way, as one does, but I had a wonderful time.
You're a long-term resident of Staffordshire. I get the impression that Staffordshire is sort of beating in your heart.
My family's been here for 800 years, so I was the 29th to inherit the house, and my son has gone there now to the 30th. And we're worried we may not make the 31st.
And we could, of course, focus on the house that you have lovingly restored, and we'll put in the notes some links through to that. In terms of your policing career, so starting in Stafford, what do you recall of those early years? Perhaps good points and less good.
Well, less good points included being called youth everywhere. All the public always called you youth. You're right, youth, as you walk down the street.
In uniform. In uniform, yeah. So you were a uniformed officer.
Uniformed officer walking down the street, checking. The doors were locked on all the shops, which struck me as a bit childish, but there we were. And if there was a shop found burgled, you were called back off nights to justify it to the chief superintendent the following morning.
So you had a patch. Your responsibility, yes. What went on in that patch?
Absolutely. I had a very good first sergeant and a first shift that I got on very well with, some of whom I still see, and I loved it. And once you get under your skin, then you're off.
Thank you for watching. Tune in next week.